This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Kevin Tucker and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic! What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is December 12th, 2024. Jonathan Osborne here, and as always, joined by my co-host, Kevin Tucker. Kevin, we are bounced from the NBA Cup, but how are you doing?
Bounced from the NBA Cup, that's unfortunate. And obviously we'll talk all about that game in Milwaukee, which what a game that was. But on the bright side, the Magic have some rest, and we have some rest, right? Like there's some nights this week without Magic basketball, which is very weird. You know, we haven't had that literally all season long. This team, Jonathan, has had one extra day of rest the entire season, which is crazy. So anyway, I'm glad to get some nights off this week, as are the Magic. But yeah, I'm good. How are things in your world, Jonathan?
I'm doing pretty well. As Kevin and I are recording this just before 9 o'clock on Wednesday, we're keeping track of this Atlanta Hawks, New York Knicks NBA Cup game because we basically play the loser of that game on Sunday. Atlanta right now, with a few minutes left to go in the third, is up by 5. So if that holds true, we'll face the Knicks, I believe, at home on Sunday. And if the Knicks come back and win that game, then the Magic will go to Atlanta on Sunday. So you have a few more days of rest here. And then after that game, you don't play again until next Thursday, which is actually our group night coming up on the 19th when the Magic play the Oklahoma City Thunder on TNT. So you get a few days off here. You're going to play one game, possibly at home. Don't have to travel, and then you get a few more days off before you play again. And at this point, and with the injury to Jalen Suggs' thumb last night against Milwaukee, where he left the game for a little bit, came back in, and didn't seem to be bothering him a ton, but obviously it was wrapped, so it's bothering him at least somewhat. After the game, Philip Rossman-Reich asked him how it was feeling, and he said, you know me, like, I'm good. But all these guys, need a little bit of time off. They played basically more games than almost every team in the NBA. They play more road games than basically every team in the NBA, and they just need a little bit of time at home, need a little bit of rest as well, get them healthy, and maybe get some guys back. Who knows?
I'll also remind you and the listeners, remember a couple of weeks ago when Jalen took some kind of small little bump? I can't remember what happened. He fell or whatever. And then after the game in the locker room, they asked him, how are you? And he said, I'm good. And then he was out the next 2 games. So just because Jalen Suggs thinks he's good doesn't mean the medical staff thinks he's good. So I'll definitely be keeping an eye on that as well. But yeah, luckily for us, several days between now and then. So hopefully he's good to go.
Kevin, I wanted to take some time to talk about something that has come out over the course of the last couple of days that we knew was coming. I didn't exactly know when it was going to be released, but it's been all over Orlando Magic social media, all over the place. The Wagner Brothers documentary that was produced by ZDF, I'm guessing it's a German company. And then I'm trying to find exactly the production company that made that. I think it was like Flare Films. I'm losing track of it now. But essentially, they've been working on this documentary with the Wagner Brothers for basically like the last year and a half, roughly. It's 4 episodes. Each episode is about 45 minutes each. And it's really just incredible. I know a lot of people have already seen some of the like highlights of the documentary, specifically around like both Franz and Moritz's like contract negotiations. But Kevin, I know you've seen some of it. What have your thoughts been?
First off, has blown me away on all fronts. Like when you hear there's going to be a camera crew following them, you're like, okay, I mean, what are they really going to show, right? Like, is it just going to show the highlights, of them, at the World Cup or at the Olympics this past year, or, but this shows everything, it really kind of goes in depth. It's very interesting. I don't know how much of that was planned and how much of that was coincidence. Some of the conversations, especially like you talked about with the contract negotiations, some of those phone calls they received just so happened to be when they were doing some like one-on-one interviews, in the studio, kind of getting some backstory and those kinds of things. And then all of a sudden, Mo's on speaker with his agent or whatever. And it's just like, whoa, we just captured some pretty in-depth stuff. So first off, I want to say I'm super impressed with the content. I'm also super impressed with the quality. Like that company did a killer job. Like, it's so good. It's really, really good, really compelling stuff. Even if, you take our Orlando Magic bias aside, it's just a really well done documentary. And then there's the actual content of it. We've seen some of the highlights, if you want to call it that, on Twitter, especially, of those contract negotiations. And it's eye opening in some ways. And it's just a reminder of the human element of all of this, right? Obviously, Mo and Franz are in a very unique position of being brothers playing in the league, brothers playing on the same team, brothers being, for lack of a better term, just kind of in different levels when it comes to pay scales in the NBA, and different stages of their career. And all of those things come into play when it comes time for those contract negotiations. And so very moving stuff, like emotionally, honestly, some of that stuff that you hear, especially on Mo's end. But yeah, all in all, I just came away super impressed, not just with the documentary, but with the whole Wagner family, honestly.
And just to give this another shout out now that I've got it pulled up. So it's a Flair film production in co-production with ZDF, supported by German Motion Picture Fund and the Medienboard Berlin Brandenburg. All of that. It was a 4-part documentary series by Timon Modersohn and Thomas Pletzinger. So, yeah, they did a fantastic job. And like you're talking, so the documentary basically starts, the last off season, the 2023 off season, as they're preparing for the World Cup. And Franz is still on his, rookie scale contract at the time, wasn't eligible for the extension. So that first episode really is kind of centered around both Franz and Mo, but like the biggest and most compelling piece of that first episode to me is when they're on the beach in California and Mo is getting calls from their agent, like saying, hey, like, we're really not getting the level of interest that, we want to around the league. And right now, like, your best offer is to be with the Magic. And he expressed that that's where he wants to stay. Obviously, he likes living there. His brother is there. But what was the biggest thing to me is he just keeps coming back to this point that he just wants to feel like he's appreciated, that he's good enough as a player. And not to spoil anything, but by the end of the documentary series, it basically ends this past preseason where, Mo is re-signed with the Magic, Franz gets the extension. And I think, Kevin, you'll have to, maybe we'll revisit this once you've finished all 4 episodes, but you come away feeling like, Mo ended up getting what he wanted. And I really just more than anything came away from this like, hey, I hope that he does feel appreciated, because he said it's not about the money, it's not about the status. I just want to be somewhere where they say like, you're good enough the way that you are, and you're appreciated, and we want you to be here.
Yeah. You said spoiler. Well, spoiler alert, he ends up staying in Orlando, just so everybody knows.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I guess that was a pretty dumb thing to say.
No. And obviously his contract this summer ends up being a number even better than what he mentioned originally, with that senior talking about on the beach. A little bit different, obviously, with the team option. But regardless, I would be willing to bet that Mo is very happy. Again, we don't know the guy, but based on the things he said that he wanted, like you said, a year and a half ago in that documentary to where he is now, I have a feeling Mo has found more of a sense of belonging and being wanted, like you said he mentioned repeatedly in that. And so I hope that's true. Obviously, we love having him in Orlando, and hope he and Franz are both around for a long time.
The other thing, I'm sure, I think you have seen the clip, but like seeing it in its entirety in the context of the episode, I think the most difficult part for me to watch emotionally of the 4 episodes was after Game 7, Franz in the locker room, like so visibly like emotional and just completely wrecked and like blaming himself for the loss. Like that was really my favorite part of the whole series, is just seeing like the human element to these guys and just to see how vulnerable they were in being filmed. Because especially Franz, right? Like a very quiet, reserved guy, around the media, but like around his brother, around, their friends and their family, and obviously, these filmmakers that they became, very close with and comfortable with, just like really letting you in. Like I was really surprised at just how emotional and how open they were at times throughout the entire series.
Yeah, and again, just shows if there's any doubt out there that Franz cares. Like, come on, both of them. But that especially, he took that very personally, I guess. The fact he held responsibility for it, right? And so Franz has dealt with a lot, as far as people reflecting on that game, especially in the media aftermath. Whether it was Magic fans or more so just the general national NBA landscape, there was a lot of Franz slander after that game, and so to tie all that together with his own reaction, he was just absolutely gutted for that result and for his performance in particular. And so I can't wait to see this year, next year, whenever it is, when the Magic win a playoff series or win a Game 7, and Franz is a key contributor to that, and being able to reflect on that moment and see how far he's come and how he was able to bounce back from that and learn from that and all those things. And so all in all, again, great documentary, but also I think it's going to be really cool to look back on in 5, 10, 15 years, to be able to look back for both of them and see, what got them to the point where they end up being.
The amount of money that I would pay to have like this done of every player on the Magic.
Yeah.
I could watch this stuff endlessly. I just think it's so cool to get that type of inside look at these guys in their life. And I don't want to talk about it too much. Obviously, we want people to go and watch the documentary, and we'll put the link to the documentary in the podcast episode description and on the description in YouTube. So if you want to go and watch it yourself, but seeing the family dynamic between Mo and Franz and their parents, and it's so evident like how much Franz just still looks up and really views Mo as this role model, right? He talks multiple times how like he kind of like cleared the path for Franz, that it was a lot easier for him to not only make the decision to go play college basketball in America, but then make the decision to leave Michigan for the league, and then having his brother there with him in Orlando is obviously a huge help. And then just to see like how normal their parents are, and you can tell that they're just such a close, loving family that's so supportive of one another, and you can tell that their parents have just done such a great job raising these guys, and they're so down to earth. One thing that, not one thing, a million things stuck out to me, but in the first episode where Mo is talking about like, man, like $7 million is a lot of effing money. Right. And then right after that, it sort of cuts to Franz talking about like in a parallel reality. It's silly that we're talking about, you can make 7 million, you can make 20 million. Like,
right.
It's really kind of silly. And the fact that they're able to still have that groundedness. We've talked about that multiple times on the show when we're talking about Mo and Franz, just how they are very down to earth and grounded and always have a great sense of perspective. So I have a million takeaways. Maybe we can, again, talk about this more once you've had the opportunity to watch the rest of it. Kevin and I have been texting the last couple of days since it came out, and I was like, hey, are you going to like be able to finish this? He's like, oh, no, I don't think I will. I don't think I'll have time. I'm like, yeah, me either. And then, I just carved as much time out as I could, in between work stuff and whatever free time I've had the last couple of days, because I'm just like a junkie for stuff like this. So
the hard part is, for those that haven't seen it, it's not something you can just have playing in the background, because it's all in German. So you have to be locked in watching with subtitles to fully get the big picture. So just a heads up. Yeah, exactly. A lot of reading, but that's fine. It's just not something you can do in the background while you're doing other things. So yeah. But yeah, it's been awesome so far, and I definitely can't wait to finish it later this week.
What was really funny to me is like I'm watching it, you hear the German audio, and I'm trying to read the subtitles as quickly as possible. That even when English audio would come through, my mind almost wouldn't pick up on it, and I wouldn't be listening. I would still be reading.
Right.
But it's not a perfect like translation. So I'm like, wait a minute, he just said what? But then I'm like, wait a minute, they're speaking English. You can actually just listen and check this out. But yeah, you guys go check it out. Been a ton of fun to watch that, and people are really just loving that.
Man, I'm just saying, Hawks are up 11 with 10 minutes to go. You guys are going to hear our live reaction to this score as it happens. This is getting spicy at MSG.
Well, right now, we don't know how this ends, but you and I have already talked. I'd rather our guys be going to Atlanta at this point. I really would.
Same. If Franz was still held, like if Franz didn't get hurt, forget that. I want all this. I want the revenge opportunity on the Knicks at home on Sunday. Yes, please. But given the state of this team, like Give me Atlanta, please. Like, I think we obviously, with our injuries, have a better chance going to Atlanta and getting a win versus hosting the Knicks, but we'll see.
Now, let's talk Magic basketball. Let's get into the state of the Magic. So far this week, the Magic are 0-1 with a loss to the Milwaukee Bucks on Tuesday in the NBA Cup quarterfinal. With a record of 17-10, the Magic are sitting at 3 in the Eastern Conference. They're 5 games back of first place Cleveland, 3.5 games back of Boston. Just a half game up on the Knicks right now, 2.5 games up on Miami and Milwaukee, 3 games up on Atlanta, 5.5 games up on Brooklyn, and 6 games up on Indiana and Chicago, who are sitting in those last 2 play-in spots. The Magic on the season are 23rd in offensive rating with an offensive rating of 110.4, which means per 100 possessions, the Magic are scoring 110.4 points, and they are 3rd still in defensive rating with a defensive rating of 106.1, which means per 100 possessions, the Magic are allowing their opponents to score 106.1 points. And right now, they are 9th in overall net rating with a positive net rating of 4.3, which, you guessed it, per 100 possessions means the Magic are outscoring their opponents by 4.3 points. Taking a look at the injury report, which is starting to get a little bit crowded, Paolo Banchero is out with the torn right oblique still. He has missed the past 22 games. Franz Wagner out with the torn right oblique that we updated you on the last episode. He's missed the last 2 games. Gary Harris is still out with the left hamstring strain. He's missed the last 8 games. And Jonathan Isaac remains out with the right hamstring strain. He's been out the last 3 games. Jonathan Isaac has been questionable the last few games, so hopefully we get J.I. back on Sunday. It'd be nice to get Gary Harris back on Sunday as well. You feel, Kevin, like if you have either one of those guys Tuesday against Milwaukee, you're probably able to come away with the W?
Especially J.I., yeah. I feel like that to me. Now, it's interesting that, and this was mentioned on Twitter a little bit, that the whole J.I. thing started as what we thought was a cramp
right
in a game, and now it's led to him being out for, what'd you say, 3 games, 4 games, whatever it's been. And now they're calling it a strain, right? Isn't that what you said the title of this injury now is? So I don't know, man. You just never know when Jonathan Isaac goes down, what's going to happen. But yeah, I think if we have J.I. on Tuesday, I think you have a pretty good chance. Obviously, he's very well known to be able to slow Giannis down for at least stretches of games. And if you're able to have Jonathan Isaac for 10, 12 minutes, you feel like you have a chance, maybe to have a better opportunity to win.
And that's another guy who, when he got hurt in the Philadelphia game, immediately after the game was like, yeah, I'm good.
Right.
And now, has missed the last 3 games. And to your point, originally it was just a sore right hamstring, and now it's a hamstring strain, which indicates that there's some kind of, minor tear.
Right.
So that would explain the soreness, obviously, and it doesn't seem like it was necessarily a cramp. So, but yeah, he's been questionable and was pretty much almost like a game time decision on Tuesday. So with the time off and all that kind of stuff, hopefully he'll be good to go on Sunday. That would be really big to get him back. Now, Kevin, let's talk about this game from Tuesday. You and I, neither of us were overly, or maybe even at all, optimistic about the Magic's chances in this game. I don't know if we shared our feelings, but prior to recording the last episode, I think we were both like, yeah, this one might be ugly without Franz. And I think I'm officially at the point where I'm just not going to count this team out, going into any game. On paper, I might be like, probably not great odds, but the Magic have just proved that they have the culture and really just the willpower that, as long as they can get some shots to fall, they're going to be in every single game. And this game was just a prime example of this. Kind of similar to the New York game, the Magic got off to a really good start, but I was waiting for the other shoe to drop like it did with the New York Knicks game last week, where they started off strong and then the Knicks sort of started to get the rhythm, and then the game was completely over from there. Milwaukee did start to get a little bit of a rhythm, but the Magic were actually able to extend their early lead. They led by as much as 11 points in this game, 11 early on in the second quarter, and had, I think it was a 6-point lead with, a minute or so to go in the first half, and then just 3 straight really poor possessions allowed the Bucks to go on a bit of a run to end the first half, and the Magic were down 1 at the half. But you still felt pretty good about everything that was happening with the amount of guys that we were down. The Magic were really, it felt like they were knocking down everything that first half. They were 24 of 43 from the floor, 55%, 3 of 8 from behind the arc, which was good for 37.5%. But unfortunately, Milwaukee shot 58.5% and 38.5% from behind the arc, and they made 7 of their 10 free throws. Magic had 7 first half turnovers, which also did not help. But you were like, hey, we're down by 1 at half with this roster against that roster. Chris Middleton back in the lineup, obviously Giannis, Damian Lillard, and Bobby Portis just shooting the cover off the ball. He had 16 in that first half, only missed 1 shot. He was 7 for 8. Giannis had 20 in that first half. So all things considered, you're like, this is kind of where we want to be. Yes, it would have been great going into the lead or into the half with the lead, but down 1 against this team on the road with all the context, I was pretty happy with that. But then unfortunately, the Magic are outscored 20-13 in that third quarter. So you're down going into that fourth. You have to mount a comeback. And much like, the past couple of games, like Jalen Suggs showed up in the second half, particularly in that fourth quarter. Jalen Suggs matches a career high with 32 points in this game. 18 of them came in the fourth quarter. Like we talk, about the last game, what was it, like 14 points in that fourth quarter against the Suns to help us, get the win in that one. 18 points in the fourth quarter for Jalen Suggs, 6 of 10 from the floor, 1 of 4 from behind the arc, had 3 rebounds. Like Jalen Suggs came away from this game. He had a couple of looks late that it was a good executed play, that like sideline out of bounds play. But I just don't love Jalen coming off like a curl screen for a 3. He's just not like what I would consider like a movement shooter, really. And you didn't really need a 3 in that situation. You were down 3, but you could have got a quick 2. You still had a timeout, and you could have played the free throw game at least a little bit there. But ultimately, it was a good look. It didn't fall. He got another look a couple of possessions later. It didn't fall. And at that point, like Damian Lillard, he makes his free throws. But you're up 3 with less than a minute to go in this game. Dame gets the switch on a Wendell Carter Jr. Wendell hits the 3. Dame hits the 3 over Wendell to tie it. Next possession, Damian Lillard comes down, gets basically a free run to the rim to take the lead, and Milwaukee never really looked back. But just like, I came away from this game really disappointed just because I so badly wanted it for those guys to win that game, given the circumstances, go on to the semifinal in Vegas, get the extra $50,000, all that kind of stuff. It just stings that they weren't able to pull it out, really. I'm not upset about their effort or any of that. It just sucks that they weren't able to pull out the win, but incredibly proud of the way that they played and competed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you said, I definitely went into that game with pretty low expectations. Again, not that the Magic were going to roll over, that, I just thought they were going to be outmatched, especially offensively. Like I've said it in the post game live, it's just like, where will the offense come from, right? Like it's just one of those things. And so for them to go out there and have a more than competitive game, like you said, they had a lead under a minute to go, like that. I was just in shock the whole time and just so impressed. And a moral victory, I guess, is a thing. Maybe not a thing when the team is healthy. Maybe I don't agree with it, but right now, given the guys that are out, it felt to me like a moral victory. I don't think that locker room thinks that, but on the outside looking in, it was just like, what? Team played really, really well, all things considered. Are there things they could do better? Yeah. I mean, thinking about those 2 Jalen threes at the end, at least those were better than the Philadelphia threes, right? Like, if you want to say progress, right? Like, those were actually pretty good shots. I mean, I'm halfway being silly, but halfway being serious, right? Like, those shots in Philly were awful. At least these were halfway decent shots, and so I'll give him some credit for that. But yeah, you can't fault Jalen. Like you said, 18 points in the fourth. Just needed 1 or 2 more buckets to go down the stretch. Goga was great. AB had a really good game, especially considering how he's been playing lately. I was super happy with him. Mo was good. Just wish he had more shots. Wendell was really, really good. Again, wish he had more shots. there are other guys that maybe didn't play as well. All in all, it comes down to you just need one more guy to make like one or two more plays on the offensive end, and the Magic win this game. So that's the part that I think is most frustrating for everybody, is that the game was right there to be won. And like, what a storyline that would be to go into Milwaukee, which again, this isn't Milwaukee from October. This is Milwaukee from now, who's one of the hottest teams in basketball. They're starting to figure it out. And so I also loved hearing post game some of the Milwaukee guys give the Magic credit and Jamal Mosley credit for how this team played and how this team battled, which is always a sign of respect, right? And there's most, if not all, the NBA teams respect the Magic and what they're doing, and so that speaks volumes to Mosley, speaks volumes to this team, and like you said, just super proud with how they competed on Tuesday night. You know, Jonathan, that Wagner documentary that we were talking about, there's a little cameo in the documentary, a food cameo. It looks like the boys are chowing down on some Jam Hot Chicken in the Wagner documentary. Just saying. And you can understand why they are, because Jam Hot Chicken is awesome. And they're bringing Jam's culture and hot chicken to the heart of Winter Park. You can check them out at 400 West New England Avenue, Suite 13 in Hannibal Square there in Winter Park. They make amazing chicken, fries, coleslaw, pickles, like all kinds of amazing stuff. Jonathan and I just went there last weekend. It was awesome. Highly recommend it. Not just because it's good food, but because they love the Orlando Magic and this fan community. You can follow them at Jam Hot Chicken on all social media, and check out jamhotchickenfl.com to access the menu. Check out their online ordering and all things Jam Hot. Again, we love Jam Hot Chicken. We think you'll like it too if you give it a try. And when you do, just let them know that the Six Man Show sent you.
If it's good enough for the Wagner brothers, it's good enough for you. This episode is also brought to you by Smith Sheik's Ship Sinks, Mama Richmond, Gabe Gaines, Edmund Lagone, and Bobby Skinner. These are some of our Hall of Fame and elite tier patrons. They're folks that help support the Six Man Show, help us do everything that we do, help us pay for equipment, help us go to watch parties, have it in-person events, all of that kind of stuff. And if you want to join the Patreon, now through the end of the year, running a little Christmas promotion, a little Sixmas, if you will. So if you head over to patreon.com/the Six Man Show and use code SIXMAS, the number 6 MAS at checkout, you get 15% off either your first month or your first year, whichever way you decide to go, monthly or annual. So again, 15% off with code SIXMAS at checkout. If you want to join and help the Patreon and help support everything that we do here, head on over to patreon.com/the Six Man Show, and let's get back to the episode. So I watched this game on FanDuel Sports Florida. I know you, because of I'm guessing like the national TV blackout, you had to watch it on TNT. Was there anything? I know there was some stuff like after the game on Inside the NBA, but was there anything like during the broadcast that stuck out to you?
I was not necessarily, but one thing well, actually two things. Yes. Sorry. One thing I was a little worried about was that they weren't going to talk about the Magic's injuries. They were just going to be like, hey, here's the Magic. Here's the Bucks. Oh, they were mentioned over and over again all night long about the Magic injury. So I was actually really relieved for that, because I was worried about casual, not that I don't care what people think, but I do care what people think. The casual NBA fans, casual NBA fans tuning in, and, if the Magic lose this game, it's like, oh man, they suck, but they were able to give context all night long, and they were constantly praising, especially, Stan Van Gundy being a fellow coach, constantly praising Jamal Mosley, which leads me to the other thing that was really cool, was the mic'd up segments that they have.
Jamal Mosley dropping some MFs.
Hey, you got to do it sometimes, right? They had extended segments, like live segments of mic'd up with the coaches, right? It's not like, hey, let's go listen to what Jamal Mosley said on this play. It's like, no, let's listen to Jamal Mosley right now. And so hearing that was really, really cool, getting to hear how especially vocal he is on every defensive possession. He is constantly giving out instructions, hands up, switch, whatever it is, constantly, which is really, really cool. I didn't even tell you this, Jonathan. I think it was the third quarter, I spent a couple minutes on the alternative True TV broadcast.
No, brother.
The NBA 2K version of the broadcast. I don't know if anybody saw that. They're experimenting on at Turner, which is on True TV, experimenting with a NBA 2K style broadcast where they have badges and random stats and different things that graphics that hover over the court and all that kind of stuff. I was on that thing for maybe 2 possessions and I was out. Like it was just not for me, but I can say I tried it out. But yeah, all in all, I was super happy with, how the Magic were portrayed on the broadcast, and TNT did a great job, and it was a good broadcast.
Something that dawned on me last night as we were watching that game on the just very, very blue floor is like they've 2K-ified the NBA Cup with these floors. Like in NBA
Right.
2K, when you're playing like my team, you can have all these crazy custom courts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they've just taken that and said, we're going to do that in real life, right? Which some of the courts look really cool. Like the Magic's court looks amazing. Yeah. What just happened in this game?
Trae Young alley-oop. Hawks are up 14 with 2:50 to go.
So my rule,
Crazy.
if you're underneath 5 minutes to go and the lead gets to more than 10, the game is over. So that game is over. The Magic are, you can book it right now. The Magic are headed to Atlanta on Sunday.
Yeah, it's wild. No, the Knicks are heading to Orlando.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I'm sorry. Don't book what I just said.
Yeah.
Book what Kevin just said. Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Well, the thing is, like Atlanta, I'm looking at this while I'm just watching the score bug here. Atlanta's the 19th team in the league in terms of defensive efficiency, and they're going to hold this New York Knicks team to under 100 points, and the Knicks absolutely exploded against against the Magic. So maybe there's some hope that we just caught the Knicks on like a really weird night and they all just went loco and decided to kill us. But the Magic are playing at home. They'll have a little bit of, that positive vibe at home. And we say, Kevin, we're not picking this team to lose at home until they lose at home. So we're still picking them to win at home, regardless of what you might actually think in your mind right now.
No, I'm with you. Again, I'm rolling with the heart for the home games until further notice.
What I wanted to bring up is that I heard some things and saw some clips on social media that prior to the game, the Inside the NBA guys were saying that the Magic were going to get killed in this game against Milwaukee. And then after the game, they were saying, like, once this Magic team gets healthy, like the Celtics, the Cavs, the Knicks, the Bucks, they all need to be on the lookout because this is going to be a really good team. So, last week against the Knicks, like getting killed on national TV felt really bad. Even though you lost this game, part of the like moral victory for me was that you did play really well on national TV and down your very 2 best all NBA caliber players. You gave this almost fully healthy Milwaukee Bucks team everything that they could handle, right? And like Jalen Suggs on the national stage, 32 points, 12 of 26 from the floor, 3 of 11 from behind the arc, 9 rebounds, 1 assist, which is absolutely criminal, by the way, 4 steals, 1 block. He had 13, what should have been 14 potential assists in this game. Like, was finding guys open all night long, and guys just really were not knocking down shots. Like, that bounce pass that he had to Tristan from about half court. When I see him kind of cock back, I'm like, dude, there's not a pass to be made here. And he goes, yeah, watch this. And just on the money to Tristan, who gets fouled, and that's why the potential assist didn't get recorded. But like, just absolutely filthy. And then we had the Goga Batadze potential Jam of the Year nominee over Giannis Antetokounmpo, and then a little while later, Giannis ended up getting him back. But I do think the Goga dunk was better than Giannis.
Oh yeah, of course it was, no doubt.
And that will absolutely be this week's Jam of the Week unless something crazy happens. But
spoiler alert. Yeah, no doubt.
We'll talk more about that on Sunday. But yeah, you mentioned some of the guys that maybe didn't step up the way that we wanted them to and needed them to. I don't feel great lumping a rookie into that category, but like, Tristan DeSilva, 1 of 5 from the floor in this game. You don't love that. Want to see him get some more 3-point opportunities and just get some more volume there. Then Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, 3 of 7. Like, this is like the context where, dude, you're the 2-time NBA champion. You're a veteran of this team. You're a leader. You're really supposed to lead these young guys. We need KCP stepping up while Franz is out. He's got to find a way to get up more than 7 shots and more, at least more than 2 3-point attempts. Like, if you're going to shoot the ball 7 times, 4 or 5 of those need to be from deep, and you've got to find a way to knock some of those down.
That's right.
Mo Wagner on paper, had a really great game. 13 points. He was 6 of 6 from the floor. I think almost all of that came in the first half. like just really didn't get the ball that much in the second half and get some opportunities there. But when he was getting the ball, he was making the most of those opportunities. And then Cole Anthony, 2 of 12 from the floor, 4 points in almost 15 minutes, no rebounds, 2 assists. We thought, that like the game against, Phoenix at the end of last week felt really promising. Like maybe we're getting back to Cole Anthony, but he just can't put multiple solid games together here, and it's really unfortunate.
Yeah. You're never going to blame a loss like this on one person, but again, if Cole can just make 1 or 2 more plays on offense, I think you at least are in a better position to win this game. So that's disappointing. Like you said, KCP, I mean, he's got to get more threes up than 2. I know he's not shooting the ball well this season, but he's got to take more than 2 threes. It's that's the kind of stuff that's disappointing to me, because I feel like just those 2 guys, if they can just make 1 or 2 more plays, I think the Magic find a way to win this game.
What did you think of Jet? Just want to ask really quickly.
We're gonna do this. Is that?
I just want to throw it in there right at the end.
Jet was good. Jet did what he was supposed to. Knock down some shots. I don't know if we want to go back to some of the game logs of last week with Jet or anything, but yeah,
dude. Did I just ask for like an apology or like a referendum? I was just asking how you felt he played in this particular game.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't love the attempt at the end with the free throw.
Yeah.
Nobody knew that was coming except Jett Howard. You could see that on his face immediately. He's like, ooh, I wasn't supposed to do that, and I took the risk. I don't hate the play because, I mean, if your coach doesn't know it's coming, the other team definitely doesn't know it's coming. Right. And if it pays off, you're right back in the game, but unfortunately it did not.
On the TNT broadcast, they said he was going to do it. They said, like, oh, this is the only thing you have to miss this on purpose, is what Stan Van Gundy said. Like, you have to at this point, which to me, with 3 seconds left, you're trying to miss it, tap a rebound out, and get a 3 up. I'd almost rather make it, foul immediately, and then have 2 seconds after the free throws to maybe get a chance to tie it. I don't know.
Right.
But on the TNT
that was
broadcast,
my thinking too.
Right. On the TNT broadcast, they said, like beforehand, it wasn't even a question. It was like, he's going to miss it on purpose here, which I was like, interesting. But anyway, that was
the body language from his teammates and from Mosley immediately after. I did not get that vibe at all. And the way that he just kind of like sunk into himself, it was kind of like a kid tries to do something crazy and kind of got caught. But no, I did think it was a solid performance from Jett Howard. Jamal Mosley was like making it a point to get him some looks like as soon as he hit the floor. And made some solid passes, wasn't terrible defensively. At this point, if it's Cole Anthony or Caleb Houston or Jett Howard, I'm giving those minutes and opportunities to Jett Howard because he's, not going to hurt you, I think, any more than those other guys potentially can. And at least you are like developing Jett Howard moving forward. But yeah, this is a game where, again, if you have Jonathan Isaac or you have Gary Harris, I feel like you win this game. And just one other guy steps up even a teeny tiny bit, you're able to win this game. So that was unfortunate. But Kevin, so far, we've got 2 games post Franz and Paolo, 2 games without both of those guys. And just talk a little bit about Jalen Suggs. I've got his numbers here in the last 2 games. Last 2 games for Jalen, he's averaging 29 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, 2.5 steals, shooting 45.5% from the floor, 33.3% from behind the arc, and 84.6% from the free throw line. What have your earliest thoughts of Jalen been? What is this team really going to need to do well moving forward until we at least get Paolo back to be able to win games and sort of stay afloat and maintain their standing in the East? Yeah.
First, speaking on Jalen, I don't know how much more you could ask. Maybe make a couple more shots. I don't know. But outside of that, the fact that he's really just controlling it's all going through him when it comes to offense right now. And so that's a weight and a pressure and responsibility that he hasn't had really in his career so far as NBA goes, right? Of course he has stretches of games and those kinds of things, but the fact that for 48 minutes he's going to be the guy that's relied upon to do that is really uncharted territory for him. And so to see what he's done so far through 2 games, you have to be happy with it, right? Is it perfect? No. It's better than I expected. It's especially considering the competition. Are the Suns the best right now without KD, and the list goes on with who they're missing? No, but they have a good team. The Bucks Tuesday night, that's a really good team that's playing really well. And so the fact that Jalen was able to do these things, especially under the bright lights of TNT, NBA Cup quarterfinals, all those things, you have to be impressed with them. So I want Jalen to just keep going. I think if he keeps doing this, he's just going to get better and better. When it comes to everybody else, though, like this is not sustainable, right? Like what we see when it comes to Tuesday night, Jalen getting up 26 shots, and then other guys that we just mentioned, Wendell only taking 5 shots. To me, like I thought Wendell had a great game Tuesday. I talked about this on the post game. I just wanted more, right? Someone else in that starting lineup has to step up. And when you have Goga in the starting lineup, you're never going to run offense through him necessarily. Like he's not going to go make plays for himself. Tristan and KCP, those are spot up shooters. They're not going to initiate any offense. That leaves Wendell, right? Like Wendell has to get up more than 5 shots and has to take advantage of them, right? Whether it's him knocking down threes in the corner, which he struggled from distance this season, whether it's him just making offense some other way, someone else in that starting lineup has to step up or we're not going to have a chance. On the flip side, the bench unit, right? Like we talked about Cole. I'm not going to go over that again. He's got to be better. Like you mentioned, Mo Wagner, great first half, invisible second half. How much of that is his fault? How much of that is the coaching staff? I don't know. But when this team is going to be desperate for offense, he's one of our most consistent offensive options, right? So let Mo Wagner cook. Like give him the basketball and let him go to work. Some nights he's not going to maybe have it as well, but most nights he's going to be efficient and consistent. And so that's what I want to see from them. And then everybody else, it's going to be kind of Russian roulette. You're going to get some good nights from some guys. You're going to get some bad nights from some guys. And off that list, I mean like Jet, Caleb, Cole, AB, like of those guys, Tristan, of those guys, some nights one or two guys might have it. Some nights they won't. But all in all, I'm just calling on Wendell and Mo and KCP to just step up consistently every night offensively while we're in this stretch without Paolo and Franz.
Speaking of like guys that you're running the offense through, like Wendell had 5 assists in this game. Goga had 4. Those guys led the way for the Magic in terms of assists. Jalen, again, should have had a ton more, but guys were missing good looks. Like you go back and watch the potential assists, he probably should have ended up with like at least 6 or 7 of them. A lot of the other ones are kind of like 50-50. But you and I on the last episode talked about, hey, when Franz went out, we were probably like 80-90% sure that he could step up and really be the guy that we needed him to be offensively. Jalen, we were a little bit more shaky on. My confidence level is risen a bit that Jalen can be, we just wanted, like relative efficiency, like 20 points per game for Jalen. I'm probably like 70% confident that he can be that guy if he plays as this version of Jalen. Like even against Phoenix, had some good moments. Really, that performance was buoyed by his fourth quarter performance where he was a lot better, where this was much more of like a complete game, like buzzer to buzzer. Just played much more under control, a lot better pace. If we can get that Jalen on a regular basis, we are going to look back on this time and say that was sort of a blessing in disguise. Because not only is Franz going to be playing at another level, Jalen is going to gain so much confidence from this stretch that when you're on the road in the fourth quarter against Cleveland in the game 7, and Paolo or maybe necessarily Franz doesn't have it, you're going to say, hey Jalen, we need you to carry us offensively for this 4-minute stretch, and he's going to have the confidence and belief that he can do it. He's having to do it right now, for this team. And some people that are like, getting on him for the last, 2 of the last 3 games and some of the, mistakes that he's made late in these games. This is Jalen Suggs' like first time really in the NBA, like a real stretch where he's the number 1 option. So he's having to learn how to pick his spots, when to play hero ball, and like when to in this game in particular, like when do I just take the 3, or hey, we just need a quick 2 here. How can we get a quick 2, still have a timeout, foul, play the free throw game here? Like he's very much like, this is going to be a learning curve for Jalen, even more so than we talked about at the beginning of the season, because he's having to learn how to be the guy on the fly. And I think people need to give him a little bit of grace and patience with that.
And let's not forget, it's not just him being the guy. It's defenses aren't, focusing on Paolo and Franz while you're out there right now, right? Like there's no one else, right? We just went through that list of especially the starters, right? Like it's you now. Since you're the guy, the defenses are now going to focus on you even more, which when he's out there sharing the floor with Paolo and Franz is totally different, where defenses are locked in on those guys and Jalen is able to kind of do his thing. And so you're right. It's a totally different set of circumstances and a totally different way to play basketball just in general. And so, not to mention, he's still flying around on defense and giving 110% there, which, by the way, defensively against the Bucks, like he was a maniac. He was crazy with the strips and poking the ball away, and it was awesome. So, like you said, another potential silver lining to all this injury mess is that I think it could be building some of these guys into even better players in the long run for the Magic. And just also wanted to add, the game did go final at MSG, so it officially will be Hawks-Bucks in the semifinal on Saturday, which means the Magic will host the Knicks Sunday at 6 p.m. in a regular season game.
Godspeed. Yeah, you just hope, like, I just want a competitive game. Like that's really what I'm hoping for. At this point, like if you're in enough of these games, you're going to win a few of them, right? If we take a look at the schedule, and you have to hope and believe that with each passing day, we're getting closer to Paolo Banchero getting back. The longer that it goes, obviously, the more likely it is that maybe he's not coming back until after Christmas or the beginning of the year. But next few games, the Knicks, the Thunder, the Heat, the Celtics, the Heat, the Knicks. And then you've got Brooklyn, you've got Detroit, you've got Toronto, you've got Utah. So even if you drop the majority of the next 5 or 6 games, you have like a 4-game, like very winnable stretch there. Brooklyn, at Detroit, at Toronto, and then home for Utah, especially now Scotty Barnes is going to be out for a couple of weeks with I think it's the ankle sprain that he has. So again, we're really just in survival mode. My goal right now for this team is that when Paolo comes back, you're only, maybe a game or 2 out of home court advantage again. And this team can absolutely make up ground like that moving forward.
Yeah, it's tough. Just the realist in me, guys, says, this is a 7-game homestand coming up here, right? Like Jonathan said, all those games before Detroit. So Knicks, Thunder, Heat, Celtics, Heat, Knicks, Nets, all home games. I think the home streak's going to end at some point in that 7-game stretch, considering we don't have Paolo and Franz. We have Paolo and Franz. I say we're starting the season 17-0 at home. But it's just the reality of the matter. Now, I'm hoping we can beat the Knicks. I'm hoping we can beat the Thunder and the Heat. That'd be great. I don't want the first loss of the year to be the Heat, especially, by the way. Do we want to talk about the Heat and Jimmy Butler? And that might be a totally different Heat team by December 21st and 26th when they come to Orlando. So keep your eyes on that. That'll be interesting.
Could be.
But yeah, at this point, the good thing is obviously we know the advantage that playing at home is for this team, and so we hope that we can just be that much of a lift to this team when they need it most right now without Paolo and Franz.
Just survive. That's what you're asking for.
Yep.
All right, Kev, I think that is going to do it for this one. Obviously, we'll be back with an episode on Monday. Talk about that Knicks game. Talk about all the other storylines that are coming up here. So that's going to do it for this one. For Kevin Tucker, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You all have been listening to the Sixth Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!